Well, hello to everybody who has tuned in to this particular YouTube presentation. I'll be discussing 3 Grail quality pens. I'd like you to know that this is being recorded at 2:12 a.m. That's how much I wanted to share my information, my views, and my opinions about these pens with other aficionados in the fountain pen universe. I'm willing to sacrifice sleep so that you can share my opinion. I have 3 pens here today. The first of the pens is a Delta, which I bought online from Gold Pen IT, a wonderful Italian pen shop, and I recommend it highly if you're interested in buying any of the Italian brands, but there's a specialty that shop has on Mayora and Deltas. The second pen is a Santini Giant Elmira, which I bought from Santini.com, or I think it's SantiniIT.com. Just Google Santini. It's a great pen company that sells directly to the public. And the third pen is a Magna Carta Mag 1000 that I purchased from Pen Chalet. Each of these pens has something special about it. This is not a face-off or a challenge. I like the special things in each one of these pens, and I'll show you exactly what it is about the pens that made me give up my sleep so I can share those views with you. All right, let me start with the Delta Magnifico. This is a pen that, as you can see, has girth. It's got a Delta metal, tiny little coin at the top or some other artifact that Delta puts on its pens. It's got a nice clip. The trademark Delta and Mayora cap band, always beautiful. This now has a design that appears on many of the Delta pens. Let me see if I can zoom in on that, because it is almost like jewelry. And you can see that it's something special. It has the mushroom type shape, big on the top, then it tapers down. There's some insignia here, there's the number, there's Delta on the top here, another band here, and here's something really special. Delta has introduced a beautiful feed. Why am I looking at the feed first and not the nib or the metal part? This is because Nino Marino spent time engineering a specific kind of feed for the modern fountain pen user. Now on the back you'll see a gold nib, beautiful, and it's a size number 8. It looks to me like perhaps a Bach or a Yoho. The nibs from Bach and Yoho at the number 8 size are always very reliable. They write smoothly. I like to use micro mesh on mine, but they do a great job. They write a lot like a Mont Blanc 149. There's not a lot of give. It's not something where you could spring the nib. It's not a flex nib, but it is very reliable and very pleasing to look at. But the nib itself, as a performer, depends on the feed. And that is where the Delta Magnifico really gets to the top, because this feed is spectacular. It fills up and it stays wet. Now, this pen is filled. Let me just see if I can show you how. Okay, this pen is filled in several different ways, and I'll explain that. I've had some conversations with Nino, and I explained to him I have a lot of writing to do. I'm an attorney in real life, and the cartridge converters run out of ink before I'm done. That is, if I'm in a deposition and I am taking notes of a testimony for 5, 6, 7 hours, my pen runs dry, and sometimes it's inconvenient to try and stop the proceedings while I fill up. And I like an eyedropper. So, my good friend Nino Marino, I'm a customer. He's my seller. I have that kind of relationship with him. He made this pen into something that could be used with a converter and a cartridge, and it comes with a converter, or it could be filled as an eyedropper, and that's how I use it. Just pour the ink in there, screw it back on, and now I've got a pen that's going to last me through a whole trial or a deposition. Now, this pen, as you can see, is nice and wide, I say, and broad. I say that because I like a pen that has that kind of girth. And you'll see in the other two pens that I selected, they're also good sized pens. But I find it very comfortable to hold a pen like this. And essentially, let's just give a little bit of writing here. So, okay, I'm writing, this is the Delta Magnifico with a medium number 8 nib. I want to show you what it's like writing with almost no pressure. Pen reviewers hardly ever do that. Maybe they don't use pressure at all. I tend to bear down. But let me just write the same thing that I just wrote without any pressure at all. I'm barely touching the paper. This is the Delta Magnifico. Now, if you notice, this is a lot thinner, but did you notice also with no pressure, I had no skipping. The pen just is a beautiful, easy to use pen. It writes wonderfully. And I have enjoyed using this pen very much since I got it. Next up is a pen from, whoops, where is this? There we go. Next up is a pen from Santini Italia. Now, this pen is, I would say, almost bespoke or custom made. I've had discussions with Katrina, and I understand Giovanni Santini, who the husband and wife team that runs Santini Italia, wonderful people. In fact, I met them in person and had a wonderful time with them in the summer at the Washington, D.C. pen show. So this pen is really special. First of all, it has panels on it, flat panels. And if you never had a pen with panels, I recommend get at least one. It's different, it's unique, it looks beautiful, the light shimmers off of the panels, it feels wonderful in the hand, like a big old Ticonderoga pencil with the lines in it. It's just beautiful. Also, this pen has a beautiful cap band on it, and let me zoom in so you can see that. This one is a really extraordinary cap band. Santini is known for their cap bands. This is different than the other ones. This is like almost looking at artwork in a museum. Just wonderful. Top of the pen has a very beautiful finish on it, and with the gold around it, it looks like a ring. It's just gorgeous. Beautiful, special clip. It has a ball on it, but it also has a horseshoe type effect around it. It's a little thicker. And it has 2 rings on the bottom. Now, this is going to be what I would consider the awe-inspiring part when you consider this pen, which, by the way, I didn't mention. It has Santini Italia. This is pen number 1. That's pretty good. I'm lucky to get that. Now, let's take this out, and what do we have here? Look at that nib. You're looking at an absolutely gorgeous nib. Now, they say it's a number 8. I tend to think that this is a number 9 or a 10. It's bigger than the normal size 8, and it's just beautiful. You notice this is a 2-tone nib. It shows a platinum and gold effect. And again, look at this beautiful band here. This isn't just a piece of metal. This is sculptured, and it matches the band on the cap. Now, these normally would be used for filling, and this pen has a special feature. Whoop. This is also an eyedropper. Again, I prevailed upon my friends to give me something that I could use, and they did. And that's how that works. All right, now, let me fasten that down, dripped a little bit of ink. I didn't practice this before. And now let me show you how the Santini writes. We'll just flip the page here, and this is the Santini Giant, and this has panels. I think they're called panels. I don't know, but you can see the flat sides on them. It has panels, and look at the front page just so I could see what this is called. I think this is called the, whoops, Elmira. Okay, now let me write again very lightly with almost no pressure. Same thing. This is the Santini Giant. All right, so you can see, again, this is a beautiful writing pen. It is both of these pens, the Delta and the Santini, are completely silent. You can't hear anything. No vibration. It's so smooth, it's like writing with perhaps a magic marker. It's just wonderful. I could write all day with this. The ink supply is endless. It's just a great pen. Now last we come to something that is somewhat of a novelty, and I'll explain to you why I got this pen. This is the Magna Carta Mag 1000. This actually is, I have about 5 of these, and because I wanted to just test it out. This is the one that has by far the most beautiful acrylic. It's just great looking. A nice band here that says Magna Carta on it. The top is nice and beautiful and flat on the top. The clip is nice. There's no other thing. The bottom is flat. But it's a beautiful piece of either, I think it's either ebonite or acrylic. Maybe it is ebonite. But here's the thing that attracted me and really what I wanted to try out. Look at the size of that nib. You're talking about something that is maybe a size 15. Let's make a comparison. First of all, let me wipe it off a little bit. Okay. So here is the famous Pilot Emperor, and the main reason people love this pen is because of this huge nib. Now look at the two nibs together. The Pilot looks like a number 6 compared to this giant, bigger nib on the Magna Carta. The two pens are otherwise the same size. As you can see, if I lay them down. But look at the difference in the nibs. So I wanted to see how a pen like this with a huge nib, and by the way, this giant nib is stainless steel. And on the back of it is probably the biggest ebonite feed I've ever seen on a pen. I can't say if that's good or bad, but I also met Hiram, the owner of Magna Carta, at the DC Pen Show, and he told me he was making these in small batches. The pen fits nicely in the hand, as the others do, even though it's the size of the Pilot Emperor, which also fits nicely in the hand. Let's see what it writes like. And let's pull this down a little bit. Okay, this is the Magna Carta Mag 1000. And this, I think, is called Peacock. Now you can see it also writes very smooth, I think I can attribute the smoothness of the writing, all my pens, looking for a little piece here, is my friendly micro mesh. When I get a pen, I go through this exercise just so you can see, and somebody once asked me what I do. I start out with a box like this. I do 3 of these. Then I reverse myself. I go backwards like that. Then I'll have a little bit of wet there. I'll do a line, a couple lines through. Then I'll do these letters. F, 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 G, 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 H, 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 and lastly, S, 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 S. That's it. When I get done that, I find generally that my pens write very smooth, as this does. Now I did a light test on each one. Let me just do that and say, to see how this writes with 0 pressure. So this is the Magna Carta Mag 1000. Again, it passed that light pressure test. It didn't skip. Now, if I had to decide which of these pens I would want if I was stranded on a desert island, which would be the one that I would probably take? Very hard choice. And I'm hoping that in Desert Island there'd be some paper, and also it would be ink quality, paper that could handle ink. But if I really had to make a choice, and this is like asking me, which one of my 5 children would I save if there was a fire? Very hard to answer. Harder than this. I think I would take the Santini, because it truly was custom made for me. I spoke to the people at Santini, Katrina Santini, who is the public face of the company. I told her I wanted a gold trim, no problem. I told her exactly which one of their, I guess, a dozen or so nib styles, no problem. And I said, look, I know you've got a converter on that pen, but or whatever other filling system. I said, but I want to have an eye drop. Can you convert it into an eye drop just for me? No problem. So with all that effort, and I think also I had mentioned to Giovanni that a panel pen is really nice. And I think that I could take some credit for that, maybe not. So I really think I would take this one first, but I'd have a hard time deciding, because I also have this Delta where Nino Marino took my advice and gave everybody the opportunity for an eyedropper. And he added this unbelievable feed on a gorgeous gold number 8 nib. So maybe I'll change my mind. Okay, if I'm on a desert island, I'll take the Delta Magnifico. Maybe I'll take that. Maybe I would take the Mag 1000, but probably not, because although I am fascinated by this large size nib, it just doesn't have some of the other things that I really love in the pen. Like on these 2 pens, I love these bands. I love the construction of the way the top of these are. I love the rings on them. Now, what does that mean? None of those things seem trivial, don't they? No, they're not. Because when you're writing with your pen, if you really love pens and you look down at your hand, it's almost like you're in a museum looking up at the wall and saying, oh yeah, there's a painting. I often wonder if the security guards at a art museum who see the same paintings, let's say they're in a certain corridor every night guarding it, did they ever get bored, or do they ever look up and say, "Oh my God, look at that Rembrandt, or look at that Picasso, it's gorgeous"? Well, I write, and every once in a while I look down and say, "Boy, how lucky am I? Here I am writing, and I've got these beautiful works of art to look at while I'm writing." So I think that if I had to make the choice, I would protest and say, I can't pick one, I have to take two, and these are the two pens that I would take. Now, anyone that expected me to be conventional in terms of size, comparison, things like that, that's not what the purpose of this is. This is for me to share with you my feelings about three, what I consider Grail level pens. Grail meaning excellent, above the norm. And believe me, you could call me the Grail King because I've spent so much money since I started collecting pens, accumulating Grail pens. And these are some of them, and right now, these are the ones that are on my mind as excellent, the kind of pens that I love to have. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and I thank you very much for stopping by and clicking on this video.